Well, good morning, everybody. Take your seats. Nice to see so many people here on time and ready to get started on what will no doubt be a very interesting and engaging day for everybody who's come along. Thank you very much for joining us here at the Digital Literacy Forum for 2015. My name's Dale Rankine and I'll be your MC for today. A little bit about myself before we get into proceedings, and I guess one of the reasons why somebody like myself ends up MCing an event like this. My background is predominantly in the tech startup and entrepreneurial space at the moment. My background actually goes right the way back to primary school teaching out of university, but then I guess diverted, as a lot of early 20-year-olds do, into more, let's say, creative pursuits such as the music industry. And through that, in the creative industries, found myself into technology around the mid-90s, developing websites and all kinds of multimedia content. My career's then taken me through a number of different aspects of the technology space, including some startups of my own, to today where I'm primarily involved in a venture capital group, investing in new technology companies and helping startups to get their ideas to market and to see those entrepreneurs and those businesses flourish. My role takes me across the east coast of Australia as well as Asia and the US, and currently working with a venture capital group based out of the Philippines, which is providing a lot of interest in terms of the economic growth in that part of the world and the technology space. I'm also a mentor at River City Labs, which is a technology co-working and incubation space in Fortitude Valley. And through that, I like to get quite involved with, I guess, on an education and mentoring perspective for a lot of the tech startups that are starting to emerge out of Brisbane. So it's a fantastic opportunity for me to come and be part of today. I'd like to thank the State Library of Queensland and the organisers for having me. And no doubt, as I said at the opening, we're going to be very well engaged and stretched, perhaps, with some of the ideas and the concepts and lessons that we'll be hearing from our speakers today. As you can see on the screen, there is a hashtag for today. Are there any Twitter users amongst us? Any tweeters? Good to see. That's very much part of being digitally literate, I think, is understanding what to tweet, when to tweet, and how to tweet it. So if you are tweeting today, the hashtag Digital Literacy 2015 is what you can use to group your messages together. Just some housekeeping rules for today. The location of the amenities is just outside to my right here, back out where we were congregating before we came in, just on the other side of the terrace. Today's workshops are going to be filmed and recorded, and that material will be made available through the marketing department. If you don't wish to be filmed or be part of that communication, please let one of the State Library staff know. They're the guys walking around in the blue teal shirts. In the event that we have to evacuate, again, grab one of those people with the blue shirts. If you're wearing blue, otherwise you might find a few other people hanging on to you, but the State Library staff will make themselves known and will exit out of the rear or this side door here. My first honour this morning is to introduce Songwoman Maroochy. She's a graduate of the Victorian College of Arts in Melbourne and an internationally renowned opera singer. Songwoman Maroochy was the first Australian to perform at the United Nations in New York in 1993 in honour of the International Year of the World's Indigenous People. To deliver the Welcome to Country, please welcome Maroochy.
Bulkairi Marumba Kurilpanu. That's welcome to this part of Brisbane. In the language of our Turrbal people, when we do a welcome to country ceremony that is done as a blessing of that gathering in a song, and I shall do that in a Tinchi Wal. But firstly, I would just like to extend the appreciation of that Turrbal people to the organisers of this event for asking us to be a part of this in this capacity. It is a wonderful experience of, getting the opportunity to sing at different welcomes, and because as already mentioned, the VCA thing, that happened way back in the VCA, Victorian College of Arts. That happened way back in the 1970s, So I'm actually the first Indigenous, probably tertiary graduate of it, because the Victorian College of the Arts was the only tertiary institute in the whole of Australia that had a dramatics arts program. So I'm probably the so-called first Indigenous one, without blowing my trumpet. When I finished at that college, it was difficult for Indigenous people to get roles of any kind. So I ended up being a public servant just to pay my bills. But I still kept up with my singing. So, I suppose I'm blessed more than most, because not many, way back then, you used to have to sit an exam to get in a public service, to get, I don't know, some of you might remember those. Do they still exist? Yeah, so that was back in the old days, I suppose. To be able to get a job, it was, I just feel blessed anyway. I'm standing here as the direct bloodline descendant of a man nicknamed the Duke of York, who was chief of the Brisbane tribe way back in the 1830s. Foster Faines made reference to him in his writings. Foster Faines was a commandant of the penal settlement in the mid-1830s of Moreton Bay. See, you were asking how come I'm rolling this all out. It's because I spend a lot of time in the library. It's one of my favourite places. And we're still here. We're actually documented as being extinct, on the verge of extinction, way back in the 1860s. So I think there's nothing sort of, I suppose, from an Indigenous point of view, one of the greatest responsibility within our traditional society is to, and probably the joyous as well, is that of the person that sings up country and sings up songs. That's the song person, and you sing for dances, and you sing for crossing tribal boundaries, and song and dance is practically very much a part of our traditional ways. But I'm also, that whole notion of being direct descendant of the Duke of York, that is anglicised from Dakiyaga, means the person who works with the stone. In other words, it could have been a person who did the scarification on the bodies of young men who went through ceremony, or a person who worked with the magic in the stone, because we believe, for healing and things like that. So there's a little peep through that window. So I'll do the blessing of the gathering, and hope you have a wonderful time today. And what else? There was something I had to say. No, I've forgotten. I'm allowed to. I passed a 6-0 a couple of months ago, so I'll do the blessing. And yes, I'm actually from Cherbourg as well, which is a big reserve up near Kingroy. And at the age of 11 or 12, I was sent to Melbourne, and I was talking out there before about the Aussie rules. Yeah, I got branded yellow and black. So when I got to Melbourne, when I'm talking branded, I mean, when you go to school in Victoria, every kid has a team, one of the footy teams. So they saw this little Queen Diana come along, well, the banana bender. I suppose yellow's half of the colour, so we'll, and she's a black girl, so yellow and black, no, but I'm a Richmond supporter, and I'm still waiting for them to even improve. So do the blessing.
Baritha, Mariana Men, Manda Baritha, Mariana Men, Bissel Gariathai, Gavai Garibuja, Manda Baritha, Mariana Men, Manda Baritha, Mariana Men, I do pay of wa, Nin Yunganala, Manda Baritha, Mariana Men, Manda Baritha, Mariana Men, Manda Baritha, Mariana Men, Manda Baritha, Mariana Men, Garinina Nami, Juchamobironu, Garinina Nami, Garinina Nami, Juchamobironu, Garinina Nami,
Thank you for that. That was fantastic. I'd like to introduce now Janette Wright, the CEO and State Librarian here. Janette commenced in the role of CEO and State Librarian back in February in 2012. Her experience in public libraries include time as the Director of the Public Library and Network Services at the State Library of New South Wales, and has strengthened her lifelong commitment to increasing access to library services. Her more recent roles as CEO of Cavell and Library Services Company and RMIT Publishing, Ms. Wright has developed a strong knowledge of the methods and techniques to digitise legacy collections and will apply this to improve the long-term preservation of and the online access to Queensland's documentary heritage. Please welcome Janette Wright. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale, and welcome everyone to the State Library of Queensland today to participate in our Digital Literacy Forum. And I would certainly like to begin by thanking Songwoman Maroochy for the wonderful performance. It's always good to see you here. And I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land here at Kurilpa Point and pay my respects to the elders and their ancestors who used this place for meeting for many generations before we came here. It's great to see such a diversity amongst the audience today. We have people here from public libraries, from local government, from adult literacy fields, from academia, from IT, and other industries to share and develop our collective knowledge of digital literacy. This forum is part of our annual commitment to literacy in Queensland, and I'd like to take a few minutes to set the scene as to why the State Library has convened this forum and what we hope to achieve here today. The State Library of Queensland and the Queensland-wide network of about 320 public libraries, including Indigenous knowledge centres, are committed to building literacy through innovation and through collaboration. The knowledge-rich society in which we live is characterised by a wealth of ideas and information, and the ability for us to understand, communicate and transfer this abundance of information is built upon the foundation skills of reading and writing. And you'll know that we've come from a time when reading and writing and access to knowledge was a scarce resource. And so we're transitioning into a world where there is not only an abundance of knowledge, but actually ubiquitous knowledge. So this means that we need ways to help us find our way through that abundance. And literacy today has broadened its scope to be multimodal and is tied closely to both technology and the culture underpinning that. People need to acquire an increasing range of literacy skills to communicate effectively in a digital environment. And as we know, many of you know, public libraries proactively address state and national education agendas and provide literacy programs and services for the whole community. Our aim is that everyone in Queensland can actively participate in the social, economic and cultural life of their communities. Our efforts to achieve that aim are tied to our Vision 2017 for Queensland Public Libraries. This was a strategy developed in partnership between the State Library, the Queensland Public Library Association and the Local Government Association of Queensland. In essence, Vision 2017 sees 21st century Queensland public libraries as spaces to learn, work and create. They have a dual role as vibrant local centres and as a window to the world. Vision 2017's 4 themes are creative community spaces, connectors both physical and virtual, technology trendsetters, and incubators of ideas and learning and innovation. Building community literacy is at the heart of the vision and cuts across all of those 4 themes. Many of you will recall that in 2011, the State Library co-developed the first Libraries for Literacy framework to articulate how public libraries help improve literacy. The framework provided a guide for the development of community-centred literacy services delivered by or as partnerships between Queensland Public Libraries, state and local government and other literacy providers. In 2014, we reviewed that framework and found that much of its content should be retained in order to continue to support community-centred literacy services. And this is the framework, and you're welcome to collect this from outside. The guiding principles remain the same, emphasising that literacy support should be equitable and inclusive, community-centred, collaborative and sustainable. So don't forget to collect one of the copies of the framework outside at the reception desk, or you can find it on the Public Libraries Connect website. The literacy framework defines digital literacy as the ability to confidently and critically use digital information sources, communication tools and networks for learning, communication, collaboration and creation. The objectives and structure and content of this forum have been designed with this definition in mind. Our objective today is to support public library staff and adult literacy providers to build their understanding, confidence and skills in these areas, and ours too. We particularly focus on the role libraries can play in helping build digital literacy in their communities, including with local business. Today you'll hear presentations from respected industry professionals about Queensland's place and direction in the digital economy, workshop sessions for deeper engagement and a panel discussion from industry experts. Tim O'Leary from Telstra, his keynote address will set the foundation for the day as he touches on why digital literacy is important from the perspective of an executive within a major digital communications company. And our 3 presentations from respected industry professionals will help build our knowledge about Queensland's place and direction in the digital economy. The workshop sessions include 18 presentations from a variety of industries for us to experience some deeper engagement across diverse sectors, including adaptive technologies, research, and the private sector, government and community organisation level industry practice. In developing the program today, the State Library has engaged a range of presenters, including some who are familiar with the public library audience and whose messages continue to be important for us. Some who've approached the State Library for an opportunity to speak to a public library audience about resources or information that might be of interest, and we see that as a positive sign that people in the industry are approaching us in this space, and others who were approached by us to explore opportunities to build new partnerships between the sectors. The final session of the day will be a panel discussion with industry experts to consolidate the learnings from the forum and to explore strategies, partnerships and funding opportunities for what's next. So I'm confident that today's forum will build on our Vision 2017 learning strategy, which supports the professional learning and development of Queensland's public library workforce. It spells out how we plan to support and enable the multi-skilling and commitment of the public library workforce to create the best possible physical and virtual spaces for people across Queensland. These spaces will allow Queenslanders to engage with literature, learning and ideas, and most importantly with each other through our public library network. Building our understanding and skills in the area of digital literacy is one example of our commitment to professional development and lifelong learning. Thank you for being here today, and I trust you'll find our speakers, the presenters, the workshops and discussion stimulating and informative.